Alright, so hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast, Ducky Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Thursday Night Football, Week 8 of the 2022 NFL season. So in this game of Thursday Night Football, you had a Ravens team coming off a close win against the Browns. And the story of this Ravens season is, well, struggles in terms of closing out games, but they were able to close out this game with a win. And as for the Buccaneers, well, they were on a 2-game losing streak in this game. They got embarrassed by the Panthers last Sunday, and, well, they were hoping that on a short week they could get the train back on the tracks, and, well, that train is still very much off the tracks, and now it's a 3-game losing streak for the Buccaneers. And with that, we're going to get right into the action. Starting with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson completed 27 of 38 passes for 238 yards and 2 touchdowns, adding 9 carries for 43 additional yards. Tale of two halves for Jackson in this game. He had a dreadful 19 of 30 for 144 scoreless yards, entering for the first half as the Ravens employed a pass-heavy attack. Then Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman both left the game, and then after halftime the Ravens decided to switch things up, and while Jackson's passing became far more effective as the Ravens road-graded the Bucs on the ground. Although he somehow hasn't found the end zone on the ground since Week 3, Jackson's running continues to prop up his shaky pass production. Week 9 against the Saints could be difficult if Andrews and Bateman are in danger of either being held out or in danger of missing that game because of their injuries. Baltimore does have a Week 10 bye, so that's why the possibility of them being held out is a thing. Ultimately, I don't think either of those guys probably should have been played. Short week, they seemed highly questionable coming into the game, and ultimately, well, Andrews went into the game with one injury and came out of it with another. Bateman ended up aggravating his injury, so yeah, hopefully it's nothing serious for those guys. But yeah, definitely probably not the right call. Looking back at it, to have those guys play on a short week at less than 100%. So overall for the Ravens, they were out of character in the first half, but then turned it around in the second. And when you think of Ravens football, you think of running the ball. Not every play, obviously, and not in every critical situation, but it has been the foundation of an offense that allegedly has been tailored to Lamar Jackson's strength. And that's what made the Ravens' first half approach confusing. They had a 32-7 pass run ratio, counting the 2 sacks, and that was with Mark Andrews getting hurt early in the second quarter. Now, part of it might have been because of who the Ravens had healthy and who they didn't have, but they couldn't keep going at the pace that they were going in the first half. And what do you know, in the second half, on the first play, Jackson took off on a zone read for 25 yards. They would then run it 5 straight times that drive and end it with a game-tying touchdown. So the second half was that vintage Ravens offense, that vintage Ravens football, even though some of the names on the jerseys were different. Gus Edwards started running back in this game, did go down with a hamstring injury. That's unfortunate to see, but Kenyon Drake was able to pick up the slack along with Justice Hill. And as a result, I think by getting back to vintage Ravens football, it helped them deliver a big road victory on a short week. Also, gotta give a shout out to Isaiah Likely in this game. He stepped up in the absence of Mark Andrews. I heard a lot about this guy during the preseason. I watched him play a bit in the preseason, and I thought, hey, we're a rookie tight end. He's in a good spot in Baltimore, learning alongside Mark Andrews, and it's nice to see that his preseason production translated to the regular season when he was needed, when he was called on. He stepped up and delivered. So again, shout out to you, Isaiah Likely. As for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady completed 26 of 44 passes for 325 yards and a touchdown. So another rough game for the Bucs offense. Protection breakdowns, pass catcher miscommunications, and penalties all were basically the downfall of the Buccaneers offense, and also it pretty much killed any shot they had at developing rhythm on offense. But there wasn't really much of it. It didn't really seem like there was ever going to be much of a shot to develop any sort of rhythm. Brady did manage to throw his first touchdown in 2 weeks, so we got something going, though it came in what could be considered garbage time, with the Bucs needing to recover an onside kick to have any chance of making a game of it. And as we all know, the NFL pretty much is pretty much screwing teams over with the current onside kick setup. So yeah, there was no chance. Brady did hit Mike Evans for a 51-yard gain. That was his longest of the season, but that was about the highlight of that for that duel this evening. They, for some reason, just could not get on the same page multiple times throughout the game, including in the end zone, which is usually where they're on point. Brady now has just 9 scores through 8 starts, which is unbelievable for a quarterback like him. That is, that is amazing. Amazing in a bad way. Julio Jones, I guess one positive for the Buccaneers offense, he made a successful return this evening, and he came out of it unscathed. So now he has 10 days to rest up for Week 9 against the Rams. He also got a touchdown as well too, so he was able to contribute. But ultimately, Brady, well, he missed some layups on Thursday, and I think just overall a lot of different issues for the Bucs on offense. So I think this is a fair question to ask with the Buccaneers at 3-5, under 500, even with Tom Brady as their quarterback. Are the Buccaneers pretenders? Are they? Thursday night games tend to favor the home team because of the short week and the benefits that come with not having to travel. Granted, both teams were dealing with some injuries. Tampa Bay, especially in that secondary with their 2 corners and safety. That was not good for them going into this game. And also, they were coming off some tough recent games, both teams. But after taking a 10-3 lead, Tampa Bay looked spent. The offense punted 6 straight times, a streak that started after scoring on the first 2 drives. And the defense would allow 3 touchdown drives to the Ravens offense without its top 2 pass catchers and its top running back. Now, the blocking was lethargic, the tackling was brutal, and the energy was non-existent. I mean, watching the Ravens run the ball in the fourth quarter, that defense had to get a stop, and they just couldn't get a stop. Everybody got held up, and the offensive line, for the Ravens was just opening up big holes, and Tampa Bay couldn't fill. They couldn't fill those holes, man. Then there was also mental errors, like when Tom Brady had the Bucs inside the Ravens 10-yard line, and then 2 penalties later, and Tampa Bay was forced to kick the field goal, and they never had a shot to win thereafter because, well, with the onside kick set up, they weren't going to get it. So the Bucs are 3-5 and are still in down bad territory. I guess good news for them, their division's kind of a mess. The Saints are struggling through injuries and at under 500 as well too. Carolina is a team still trying to establish its new identity now that it no longer has a coach, and also doesn't quite know who its starting quarterback is. They know for this week, but how long does that stay? How long do the Panthers stay with PJ Walker? And also a Falcons team that, Falcons team that knows how to play a feisty brand of football, but it doesn't always translate to wins. So I guess Tampa Bay, competition is light to say the least in the division. So at the very least, if they could, I think for Tampa Bay, they got the work cut out for them, obviously. But I think for Tampa Bay, the focus should be on trying to win your division, whatever means necessary, because at the very least, that gets you into the playoffs, that gets you hosting the playoff game, and maybe if you get into the playoffs, we can get that vintage Tom Brady and something magical happens, maybe. But man, it just does not look good, and I truly think this could be the last season for Brady with just how things are going. And it doesn't look pretty. But big win for the Ravens, another tough loss for the Buccaneers. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.